Hi, I'm L.A.Winters of L.A.Winters Fitness, and this is an intro to yoga. This video is designed to give you some knowledge of concepts that are fundamental to yoga and will help you in your practice and hopefully help you develop your own yoga practice. So first of all, yoga is a practice because we never arrive, and that's such an important mindset, meaning there's always more to be done, more work to be done, but not in a competitive way. In yoga, we're not competing with ourselves or anyone else because yoga is individual to each body. We all have a maximum range of motion. We all have different connective tissues and how tight those ligaments are, or just our anatomy and our structure, how our femur is set in our hips is going to determine what a pose looks like on you. So it's important to let the pose move into it so that it fits your body rather than forcing your body into an idea of a pose. So often we see the perfect representation, and I use that in quotation marks. There is no perfect representation. What is perfect for you is what is safe, takes you to that edge, and allows you to get 100% of the benefits of yoga without reaching that very narrow idea of what a pose looks like on somebody else. So always remember that you're fitting the pose to your body, your architecture, in a way that is safe, structurally aligned, and brings you safe room to move into more flexibility, to greater range of motion, and more strength. And those are the goals, and that's why it's a practice. We're always finding an edge to move towards that safely. All right, so then I'll also talk about the breath, and there is a video on here just about breathing in the practice. The breath, there are a lot of different breath patterns and types in yoga, but for flow, it's really nice to use a deep diaphragmatic breath, Ujjayi breath. And I have a video just on that. So that's important. Also, there's videos just on breakdown of a sun salutation and standing poses breakdown, and those are meant to just help you understand so that you can really flow with the videos. So we've got breath, that is important, and to watch that video on breath, and then also this idea of dynamic tension. So in yoga, there's this beautiful balancing of opposites. So we can be still and yet active. So we are engaging our muscles or groups of muscles specifically. And by doing that, we are creating dynamic tension, alive, moving in all directions. So even when we're still, we're actually working, we're strengthening the body, strengthening muscle groups. One of the things, the beautiful benefits of this idea is how over time we create a beautiful posture because we're always working on that spinal alignment and that upper body. We sit at computers or desks and our shoulders round, or on the couch, or our hamstrings tighten over time, and that can happen from running or from sitting. And so when your hamstrings shorten or your hip flexors shorten, there's a group of them, not just the hamstrings, it takes the pelvic girdle out of alignment, and then it's believed that 80% of back issues, lower back pain, is caused from compression in the lower spine by negative or unhealthy alignment in the pelvic girdle. So the hip opener series on here is really great for that. But by using proper alignment, we will open up areas of the body that are closing, and we will strengthen areas to support that new openness. So that's why it's really important that you're very conscious of, and that's why it's that mind-body connection. We're using our brain to feel those new neurological pathways building, and over time they become second nature to us while they're strengthening things. The shoulder girdle is really important in learning how to manipulate the scapula and feel when the engagement is in proper alignment. So I'll talk a lot about that, whether we're in an inversion, in down dog, or we're standing. So first of all, the idea with the the whole spine in alignment is in dynamic tension. So we're going to create that dynamic tension, what I'm talking about. So if you think of the spine as a strand of pearls on an elastic, and we're going to try and stretch that elastic and keep it nice and stretched to make more space and really stack those vertebrae as best as we can. So one of the ways we do that, the main way, is by the shoulder girdle engagement and then adding the dynamic tension. So the shoulder girdle, what we want to do is we want to lift our shoulders, reach them back, so see how that opens that, and then slide those shoulder blades, the scapula, down the back, and feel them move down, together and down, and then imagine that you're tethering the tip of the shoulder blade to the top of the hip bone. So there's this downward maintenance of action, of dynamic tension, as we keep them down and towards each other, which opens up the sternum, lifts the heart, and I call it that ballet posture. I used to be a dancer, and it's beautiful and it's healthy. So the other thing we do after we create that shoulder girdle engagement is to send the tailbone down and the sits bones, like root them down into the mat. Imagine that you're just sending roots down, planting yourself there. And then reaching up to the sky with the top of the head. So you create that imaginary pull on that strand of elastic, and you maintain that. Now, even though you are working, your entire torso is working. Another dynamic tension or engagement is known as a lock. And there are 3 that we work with in these flows. The foot lock, which I'll go over in a moment, and the pelvic floor lock, and the mid-body lock. So when you think about it, there's no bone right here. The only thing holding our organs in is these layers and layers of abdominal muscle. Pelvic floor is the same way. It's just muscle, and we know over time, especially with women, that pelvic floor can soften, the muscles become weaker. Well, yoga really, when practiced with these locks, can make a huge difference in that. So, and I can attest to that it's really kept me strong and functioning well. So, and that's after delivering 3 babies naturally. So, that's how important it is. It affects every aspect of our lives. So, if you're seated here, either in easy seated pose, or half lotus or full lotus, and the sits bones are nice and grounded, and we've created that dynamic tension in the spine, we're reaching in both directions, and even while we're standing, throughout the practice, we want to learn to hold these engagements, these 2 locks I'm talking about. So the pelvic floor lock, imagine that diamond shape of muscle and tissue, lifting it and closing it like an umbrella, and feel that preferably on an inhale, and then hold it through an exhale. Maybe release and engage a couple of times so you can feel the difference. And then you'll learn to continue to keep that energetic engagement, that pelvic floor lock, throughout the practice. The mid-body lock is right around the belly button, maybe a little bit lower. Just think of the belly button, that's fine. Because when you pull that towards the spine, you'll feel all those layers of muscle in the abdominal wall engage, and you want that. And we are so used to a shallow breath or a belly breath. This is not a belly breath, and it's so important. We learned that in order to help our lungs function at best, we use the diaphragm so they come out to the side. So it's not a belly breath, which means we actually can hold that belly button in while we inhale and exhale instead of exhaling and releasing. So we inhale, that sounded weird. We hold it, exhale. We continue that way until over time we learn to keep that whole area engaged, that whole abdominal wall engaged, pulling back. I like to think of it as if there's a button and like an upholstery button with a string on it, and you take that long needle and you thread it through to the spine, and then you pull, tufting it in. And that's the sensation that you want to continue to have, the pulling in. course, there are times where I'll remind you, or you might have to remind yourself, certain poses, we just want to release the abdominal wall, but we want to keep it engaged as much as possible throughout the practice. And over time, really strengthens the core. It does another really important thing. If that wall is engaged in some of the more strenuous poses, it's going to protect that low back, and that is so important. And then the other thing I'll talk about is alignment. So you'll hear me give a lot of anatomical cues. These are so important. You're not going to get all of them at once, and that's okay. That's the thing I kind of love about yoga, like when I go to different teachers and everything. I love when they give really good cueing, because I'll find something that I haven't found before, a new sensation, a new tweak in a pose that helps me either find more room in the pose, more strength, or more stability. And that's the goal of good alignment. It protects our joints, but it also enables us to have more functional strength. We're not wearing out the shoulder girdle or the knees or the hips. We're protecting them, and we're actually strengthening the muscles around them. So there's a lot of natural fascia training, which we're just hearing more and more about, so important in yoga. It's one of the ways to move through planes of motion weighted in a way that actually strengthens and stretches the fascia, which is so important in our overall wellness with our muscles and our bones, really, too, our alignment. So I'll be giving a lot of alignment cues. I might say reaching your sits bones back, engaging your quadriceps, and so that you instead of releasing them, when you engage them, you'll feel the kneecaps kind of lift, and that will help the hamstrings be supported and not overstretched. So there's all these counterbalances of cues in the muscle and the alignment of the joints that is meant to strengthen everything in a safe and functional way. So listen to those cues. Know that you're not going to get all of them or even feel all of them right away, and it might feel overwhelming, but over time, as things feel more natural and you feel that you kind of memorize that good alignment, then the next cue you didn't hear before you'll hear, and it'll make sense. So give yourself some grace there. So the best way that we can know that we're moving into the new territory of flexibility and strength is with the breath. So it's really important to learn to move towards the discomfort of this kind of workout, really any workout. Move towards the discomfort, and you've heard the no pain, no gain. I like to modify that. No discomfort, no gain. It doesn't rhyme, but pain is a signal that we're maybe pushing too hard. We want to ride a safe edge, and we really want to find that for ourselves. The best way is the breath. The breath will tell you everything. So if you are in a pose, let's say you're in a pose that is taking a lot more discomfort, and you've got all the alignment going, and you move to that place where it's like, ooh, this is really, really difficult. If you can take a deep inhale and slow it back down on the exhale, instead of holding your breath or stuttering the breath, two things will happen. You'll know that you're in a safe place, so it's your guide. Your breath is your safety gauge. And then there's this wonderful thing that happens when we slow it down and exhale. It's kind of like a relaxation in the middle of this tension we're creating. It overrides a neurological response to tense up and make it more difficult, and instead we find more room in that pose. So that's a concept of using the breath as a safety gauge, and a guide into where you're at in your progression. Because that discomfort, that's where the new territory is. That's why we move towards it, but not past it into pain, because then we might injure ourselves. So listen to your body, listen to your breath, let it become as fluid as the movement, and let the breath work with the movement. I like to try to move on the inhale and the exhale so that the breath initiates it. Because we're trying to go for that long 5-count breath. Sometimes when we're more active in a flow, in a power flow, it's okay. It'll get shorter and more shallow. But then we use the down dogs or the child's pose to bring the heart rate back down and make the breath long again. So that breath is very important. Alignment is very important. Listening to the cues, creating dynamic tension, working on those locks. Yeah, and making it your own. Really listening to your body. I always tell people if the sign, and this was said to me when I was training in class, and it made me feel so much better. I was having to take some rest. I was having to go down to the mat in the middle of the practice in a training and regroup. And the instructor instinctively, as she walked through, said the sign of an advanced yogi is to let go of ego and to give your body what it needs. And that is such an important principle. We're not judging ourselves from where we want to be in our mind's eye. We're accepting where we're at without judging it in a negative way. And we're noticing. And we're giving our body what it needs, even if that may look like, or to other people like we're giving up. You're not. You're actually going to get more out of your practice when you give yourself those little respites in the middle, if you need them. You'll fuel yourself. It's just like a rest time period in between sets when you're working out. You get more if you do that. Take it anytime you need to in yoga. So there you go. I want you to remember that it's your practice. There's no judgment. And when you practice, it can be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes. Everything is just as valid. You are practicing yoga. You're doing something good for your body. So let go of the all or nothing. The other thing, the last thing I'll say is every time you put your mat down, even if you don't have a mat, I do yoga outside, I do it on the beach, and I always have a mat, but I like to think of it, even if it's not there. This is my imaginary space if I don't have a mat, or if I do, this is my sacred space, and I'm creating it. And when I come onto the mat, the mind part of it, the spirit part of it is that I am letting go. I'm taking a few moments to let go of everything that already happened in my day, in my week, and not rehearse it. Let go of it. And I'm letting go of what may or may not happen because I can't control that after my practice. And I'm going to give myself this little space, sacred space, to be exactly where I'm at, feeling whatever I'm feeling without judgment, and doing something good for myself, and not letting the mind go where I'm not. So staying in the now is very much about being present when we practice yoga and moving with intention. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you'll use the different videos to serve you wherever you're at and whatever your needs are. So enjoy. Each yoga video has a description so you'll understand how long it is and what it's meant to do. And I'll be creating more. So thank you for your time. Enjoy your practice. Namaste.